That takes a lot of guts on your behalf, not to just tuck your tail and run. But you decided to stay and fight for what's right, and I commend you on that. And the people out there that's running around, running amok, you will pay. You will pay. And I don't mean no, vengeance is mine and things like that. You will pay two ways. One, the law will always catch up to you. Mm-hmm. But number two, when you mess with a child of God,
all right now,
things come back on you.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm closing this session out with Mr. Daniel Smith, who is an activist born in Atlantic City, and I know he's going to do amazing things for the residents here. And I thank you for coming out. I sincerely thank him for coming out, and you keep being strong, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'm back. My name is Merceda Gooding, housing advocate. I'm here with Mr. Steve Young, and I'm so glad that he's sitting beside me for the table. I just would like to say, you have done so much for the community. How long has it been?
Well, it's been almost 30 years, and I'm not going to talk about my age right now. It kind of speaks for itself, but I'm proud to be able to do what I do.
I do know that you've been out there a long time, and I remember when I first met you, it was the early 90s, and I read you in the newspaper, and you was fighting. I found that to be remarkable, and I just thank God that He allowed me in your life, and you have been really a great asset to this community, even though you is not with the cliques, but I do know that you with the right people. And that's the real people and the green grassroots people here in Atlantic City. So tell me how you got started and why.
Well, it started years ago, me originally from Washington, D.C., coming here. And after you hit the Atlantic Ocean, there's nowhere else to go. It's like being at the end of the world.
Right.
And then I seen the casinos, and I left from Washington after I graduated from school and came up here and became a dealer in the casino. The first one was Resorts. After that, I became a public safety director. Basically what we did was walk through the community with a badge, and I learned the resources that exist in City Hall from that. So I was able to network with all the agencies in the city. And from that, from working in the casino, I was basically terminated because a racial issue happened. And it kind of like woke me up back to where I came from. And from that, I tried to get a job plenty of times in the casinos. And what happens here in Atlantic City, and I don't know if it happens in other places, once you try to fight for your job, they put you down as this radical person. And the more they don't want nobody to fight for their job to work for them, basically. So it's called blackball. And they blackball you, and you end up not working no more. So what happened, I went to this abandoned building called 31 North Virginia Avenue, and from there I became the activist and helped organize what I learned from City Hall and whatnot in the community. And with that, I organized tenant organizations, and we fought these millionaires. Donald Trump, he wants to tear down our building to make the road wider for his casino, and the city was helping him. And we organized, and there was a lot of Hispanics in the building at the time. And we organized, and we took them to court, because we didn't have heat in the wintertime. There was plenty of times we did not have no heat, and everybody would be crying for heat. I would gather the rent monies and tell them some people to pay early, and we would go to the oil company and pay the oil company cash money, and they would bring a truck full of oil for our building to be heated on. And there was a few times when the city said they was going to give supplies with heat, and they didn't. So we blocked off the street with trash cans.
Right.
And it was the middle of, it was July the 8th of 1986. And it was right after a situation happened in Mood where they actually bombed the residents for standing up. So we stood out there on July the 8th for 8 hours. SWAT team was all around the roofs, and everybody, and the politicians was outside, the fire trucks was out there, and they was really ready to really bomb us. And I was on the phone negotiating as well as Big Mike, that's a partner of mine, and we've been friends ever since. And we just stood firm, and what happened after that, our bill was $250,000 cash. And the deal was, by me negotiating, nobody be arrested to fix up the building and we get back in. Our bill ended up being the next day they came and arrested us for $250,000 cash. We didn't steal, we didn't rob nobody,
Right.
we didn't kill nobody, there was no weapons, there was no riot, anything. It was all peaceful. And we fought and it was downgraded. And I became the manager of the building and hired the residents, and the building still stands 30 years later.
See, I tell you that it's a commendable story. And when I heard that story myself, I felt like I said, oh my God, is this man sweet Jesus? But, you know, I mean, you really took yourself and you really took the time out. Cut. Sweet Jesus, I am so surprised. I mean, when I first heard the story, I was like, oh my God, who is this guy? You know, I felt like, you know, what you have done to change the housing conditions for that building. I mean, you were just setting an example for everybody. And then you became the manager. I mean, that is a commendable position. And I believe that residents could manage their own buildings because they want to live in a decent place, you know. I do know that you know Mr. Frank Hutchison. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, the Greater HUD tenant organization, they have taught me. I also traveled with him in Washington, D.C. We went to Washington and would go to the public meetings about HUD tenants. And I became on the board from Frank and his training and the legal that we had at the time. And it taught me so much that I've brought that talent back here to Atlantic City. And that's how really I met you, through organizing the HUD tenant organization. And we had rallies here in Atlantic City, right there on the Expressway. We would set it up and Frank came and other tenant groups from throughout New Jersey and Newark and so forth. And we stood up and we let them know that we were here. Mm-hmm. See, it's hard to believe people live in Atlantic City that's low income and poor.
Right.
But we have a lot. We are the majority that live here, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Contrary to what you may see with the blinking lights and all the glitter and everything, we are here. And,
right.
And we are, you know, and we're going to stay here. And an example of what you were saying about the building, you know, I'm glad there is a example of other people. And that's what it is, you know, the Spirit of God. You know, mm-hmm. When you fear no one but God, you're mm-hmm. able to do these type of things.
Right.
And that's my greatest fear.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's the chastisement if I don't do, because I'm accountable for what I know.
Right.
And that's what all of us are. We are public servants, you know, to serve God, and that's what we should be doing. And one true example is Schoolhouse Apartments with Cheryl. I know you interviewed her earlier. That is an example of what we did, and they're actually living it out today, where the tenants are organized together. She became security at the building, and that building is the cleanest, shining example I can see. And it's a shame that it's not noticed throughout the whole country, because that's an example of what happens when people come together, especially when residents that live here, they have a stake in where they live.
So I want to ask you, you know, I keep bringing up about activists, the troubles of being an advocate. Like you said about the casinos, you blackballed. I understand you work at the city, so what are your troubles with the city? Because you really speak out against the injustice, and I know, and even if you don't want to say anything, I know that you're going through a lot, you know, with your position with the city, and I think that's injustice because they know who you was before you got there. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. It's no secret that, you know, I am the activist and I speak out. Mm-hmm. I come to the council meetings and tell them about what they're doing wrong to the community and what they should do right. When it comes to mayors, state senators, whoever, I speak out against them. Mm-hmm. Recently, there was a Senate Tourism Committee here in New Jersey at the Convention Center.
Right.
And I was the only one from the public, and black from our community, to speak up against they wanted to have sports betting, which Atlantic City needs sports betting. I have nothing wrong
right.
with that. And know it because the economy is real bad right now. Right. Everybody has casino gambling, even Philadelphia.
Right.
But when you bring it here, have us at the table and make sure we get something out of it first.
Right.
And that was my point. Our property tax has been going up every year since casino gambling been here. And yet we have all the casino reinvestment development authorities. We got all the state is actually controlling the dollars, but it don't trickle down to the people that really need it. For more affordable housings, more buildings like what Schoolhouse Apartments and
Right.
Virginia Avenue and Lighthouse
Right.
and so forth. So if that money is not being trickled down to the people who really need it, we have a problem. And that's why I continue to stand up and say we're all public servants. See, when I tell them that, when I go to a council meeting, I tell them I'm a public servant as well as an aide to a council person, then there's no fear. They can't take something from me from what I've been doing all the time. Because aide to a council person is really a public servant.
Right.
And everybody that work in the city hall, whether they're a mayor, senator, even in Washington, D.C., the president of the United States, you're a public servant. You work